Yeah, there's a couple things I'm considering in this game, Jenks. So maybe you can help me kind of, feel my thoughts out. One thing is Eric Spoelstra, right? The Heat head coach. He's phenomenal in the playoffs. The schemes he comes up with, the adjustments he makes from game to game, he's one of the best. So part of me is like, okay, maybe we do take Heat plus 14.5. That's a massive number. But with the personnel that he has, I'm just not sure, even with those adjustments, that the Heat can stick with the Celtics if they're shooting the ball the way they did in that game one, 22 threes. Like, they were just firing away and hitting all sorts of those. Now, do I think that's going to happen again for Boston? I think they're going to shoot quite a few threes. I'm not sure they're going to hit at 50% again. So I'm actually looking here at a Heat team total under in the first half. I think that's how I'm going to play this, because if the Heat want to win this game or stay in it, they're going to have to play slow because of how good Boston's offense is. The more possessions, the more time that Boston has on the offensive end, the more likely this game is to get out of control in favor of the Celtics. So I think slowing this game down as much as possible, limiting Boston's possessions is going to be key. But in turn, that also is going to limit Miami's possessions. And with the offensive firepower that Miami has right now, I'm not sure they're going to be able to capitalize enough to get over the first half team total. My only concern is that it's really, really low, 47 and a half. And I know they only had 45 in the first half of game one, but they kind of got jumped early in that game and got off to a really awful start. So I'm still leaning towards the under here, 47 and a half. It is juiced towards the under. I think that's what I'll end up doing, but I'm still kind of, feeling things out and considering other options. Lucy, you have to imagine, if they're going to do this, Tom Brady doesn't do anything 50%, right?
Right.
He goes all in for everything. So you would imagine that he's going to be okay with jokes that are off color, things like that, because if he doesn't, then people aren't going to be too pleased, and it's going to reflect poorly on him, and we know Tom doesn't like things reflected poorly on him.
Right, exactly. If they don't do jokes about his diet, but I think lay off of the avocado jokes, because those are done. We've passed those. Those that would be lazy. We have done that to death. So I don't know about kissing his son when in Tom versus Time when he's making out with his son. There is something there. You could. That's what people were saying. He's making out with his son. And they were, it was kind of kissing for a long time. But people analyzed that at the time. People analyzed that and said he was lying down. So, pulling away, he couldn't pull. People, Zapruder filmed this.
Oh, my God.
And what a time that was. It was Deflategate and making out with his son. And then he goes to the Bucks. That's the era of his Wikipedia page. And you could get into a lot of things about how the son and Giselle and Tara Reid, I think, is one. Would Bridget Moynihan be there, perhaps?
Oh.
Or what if Giselle herself, it's like Maury or one of those shows where we're bringing out the sister now who you hate. Bring out Giselle. Bring out Giselle without him knowing and see what happens. Would he just leave? I don't know. I don't think he should, but I really do hope that this isn't something that he does 50% to protect himself or something, because then why do it in the first place? So I really do hope that there is a smattering of guests who are maybe not controversial, but for him be like, ooh, I hope there are some where you see the name and you're like, ooh, this is going to be good. Like one of those type of things where it's like women from his past would be just phenomenal. So I really hope that if Giselle isn't there, that Tara Reid is. That's the one I want on the guest list, because she needs work. What is she doing? She's on TikTok and people are a little bit worried about her. So I think Tara Reid being there would just be a good thing all around, because it would be entertaining, but also she'd probably get paid for it. So I hope that she is there.
Better under pressure, better scrambler, and better leadership skills when it comes to he's not only won at one university, but then he went to LSU and completely transformed that offense into something that was better than you can argue even when Joe Burrow was there. That offense was elite last year. Their defense was god-awful, just like USC's. But who ended up winning the Heisman Trophy last year? I can't remember. Was it Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels? I can't remember. Who won last year, Jenks?
Who won the Heisman Trophy? Was it C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young who won the Heisman Trophy? I can't remember. I mean, it's part of it. It's a small part of it, but it's not like Caleb Williams wasn't right there in the mix. And if you talk about winning at two different universities, Jaden Daniels had to leave Arizona State. Caleb Williams won at Oklahoma, and I know because I watched that cat come in and just rip us to shreds before he followed Lincoln Riley out to USC. He's not. In fact, Caleb Williams, you could argue, has had better success at two universities. He was essentially, remember at Arizona State where the players were celebrating him leaving, and then all of a sudden he took off because he's had extra experience at LSU? Just playing devil's advocate here.
Let's see here. Caleb Williams' ex-teammates at USC actually cheered at the bowl game, chanting, "We are a team." They're two different conferences, and I guess that's where I'm coming in as well. Is Jaden Daniels played against better competition than Caleb Williams did, bar none. You take the SEC versus the Pac-12. I don't know if any of the teams in the Pac-12, if they were in the SEC last year, make it out of there with less than 2 losses.
Who do you think it's going to be and why?
Oh, I think it'll be Jaden Daniels, and I'm not assuming it's Jaden or Drake either. So I do think that JJ has fans, and it's funny because people are kind of split on him. Some people will put him as a third best quarterback in the draft. Some people will put him as a sixth. But I do think in the end it doesn't matter who the second guy is. The first guy is Jaden Daniels.
All right,
and I think partly, yeah. And I say that because the game-changing ability. I think there's this assumption that he's closer to his ceiling, and I don't think that when I talk to people who either work with him, study him, I don't feel like they think that's the case because the strides he made as a passer, and then you add again the explosiveness with his running ability. That's why I think he'll eventually get a pick, or ultimately.
John, everything that NFL organizations do, it's all pretty calculated for the most part. So bringing in all these quarterbacks to have dinner together, what was the purpose of the group dinner, and what do you think the team learned from that situation?
A couple of things. Well, first, Adam Peters was in New England. They've done that. Adam Peters was in San Francisco, and they've done that. I think the unique situation in terms of bringing a big group in together, and it wasn't just the quarterbacks, and they all went out to Topgolf, and there were about 20 of them, I think it was, for that top 30 visit. So it wasn't just the quarterbacks. I just think what makes it unique is the choices they have at quarterback. And they also brought in Michael Penix in case somebody made him an outlandish offer and they had to trade down and see what he's about. So, I think it was also a lot was made about it. But by that point in the process, you're pretty far along. And if you're using Topgolf or the dinner to separate the group, then maybe either they were closer than you thought or maybe you don't have as much information as you need. But I do think part of it is they do like to watch how guys interact with each other. And also, so I think that's part of it. And that would be true whether you're an offensive lineman, a defensive end, or a quarterback. But a quarterback, you want to see how do they operate within a group and how do they get along with the group, especially in a situation, in a new situation. And then the other part is, and Dan Quinn is huge on talking about whatever they do in practice, he wants to be competition. He loves any form of competition. And so, this is another, you can go to Topgolf, and if you've been there, like, you can compete whether you're good at golf or not. And because they have just the different games that you can play there. So I think some of that may have been from that, but it wasn't. It was just when you bring these guys in, again, you're far along in the process. I don't think they came away from that thinking, okay, now we got to change our board here. But I do think it can confirm some things. But the real purpose of that whole trip was to meet with them one-on-one. And they had a chance to do that with all the quarterbacks. So that was that's going to be a bigger thing. And just going over, play retention, getting them up on the whiteboard and diagramming some things or talking to them a little bit more in depth about some of their own background and, in previous games, et cetera. So, but the Topgolf got the big headlines, but it wasn't like some deciding factor. I think it was more just some punctuation on the process.